y'all. My name is Jasmine Jones, and I am a licensed clinical social worker. You're now watching Black Girl in the Wild, and this is a little show I like to call Therapist Sips and Reviews. And today we are reviewing Queenie on Hulu, and we are sipping on absinthe and fruit juice. How y'all doing? So y'all, I had like a whole reliving of my whole 20s watching this. And I looked at reviews about it, and some people are just like, I hated Queenie. She's so annoying. We didn't need a black Bridget Jones. And I'm just like, are people not missing the point? Are people missing the point of the book? That's not what this shit is about. This is pure what happens when you haven't been seen as a person since childhood. When you haven't been experienced as a human being since childhood, so you have absolutely no idea what it's like to be experienced as a human being. I even sat up here and did something I haven't done since high school. I read a book in 2 days because I wanted to see what was different from the book than the movie, than the show, and it wasn't too different. Just a little bit, but I'll get into the themes and the reasons why I think they changed certain themes and stuff. But let's get into it. So this show is about this woman. Her name is Queenie, and she lives in London, in Brixton. I guess that's the Caribbean or Jamaican part of London, England, whatever. I had a bad experience on a layover in that place, and it was just dreary and cold and horrible. So I'll never visit there. But I'm on vacation. That's one of them places that I'm like, unless a rich nigga wants to just show me the best parts of London, I am not going back to that place. The energy just feels like old hatred, and it's dreary and dark, and I'd love to go to Ireland or Scotland though, and see those things, but no, that's not the place for me. But anyway, she lives in Brixton. This is a part of London where the Caribbean folks are. Or is it just Jamaican folks? I don't know. But she is just going through it. We start off with her at the gynecologist because I guess she had been having severe stomach pains and things like that. And she basically had a miscarriage. And so I'm going to be flipping between the stuff from the book and the show just to show just to juxtapose what's actually happening and stuff, because it's basically similar to the book, but there's some important parts that are different. And so she's with this white dude. His name is Tom, and so her and Tom been having issues for the past few months. They've been arguing more and more. He's complaining because he feels like Queenie doesn't open up to him or talk to him about his problems. And I just feel yes, she has mental health issues. She has trauma from childhood. Her mom went through domestic violence. She had to witness it. And a dude that beat her mom would make her and her mom sit through hours of bullshit soliloquies every night at the dinner table, because he insisted that they sit at the dinner table every night and eat dinner. This is from the book, not from the show. But he insisted that they sit at the dinner table every night and eat the food that he's made, and then he would just sit there and berate both of them or tell them how they ain't shit for about up to 2 hours, and so she has a lot of trust issues and shit like that. Tom's family are pure racists. So I had no sympathy for Tom, because basically Queenie was put in this situation where in the show, the catalyst was she had the stomach ache at the table she went to Tom's house, family's home, for his mother's birthday, and the grandmother, she had a stomach ache from the miscarriage she just had earlier in the day, and the grandmother was just it wasn't stomach ache, it was because she didn't want any champagne. And then the grandmother gonna say, oh, you're not pregnant, are you? And she was like, no, I'm not pregnant. No, not at all. And then the grandmother was like, oh, well, you would have beautiful babies. They would have light brown skin and maybe your eyes. And then maybe Tom's nose, but straight. So that happened in the book, but that was not the catalyst that set off them breaking up. In the show, she snapped back at the bitch and said some shit I hope you dead by the time they hear it. That didn't happen in the book. In the book, what the catalyst was, it was still the mom's birthday. and they were playing some kind of family board game, and the uncle said nigger something about a character in the board game, nigger this or some shit like that, and she was just sitting there shocked and appalled, and this nigga Tom is just looking away, like. And so she gets up and is like, what the fuck? And everybody's telling her, you should calm down. You shouldn't be so, and I'm just like, and so she walks out the house, runs into Tom's brother who's carrying his mom's birthday cake, knocks it on the floor, goes to a bus stop to sit and just collect herself. This nigga gonna come to the bus stop talking about, why are you always so angry? You know that they come from a different time. Like, you just should need to calm down. Why are you're too much, Queenie. Like, and then you won't talk to me. Why would she talk to you if you don't provide a safe environment for her? When you don't validate or acknowledge the things that make her feel extremely upset and extremely put out and extremely like she's the odd person out in your family environment because you don't want to talk back to your family. And I just feel like, when you're a black woman and I feel like there might be some neurodivergencies here and stuff too, because she's not able to hold it in and maintain it like everybody else. She's not able to push it down, and no, like, she's loud and brash and a lot of those things that we attribute to like being ghetto, loud and that you can attribute that to neurodivergent behaviors. Just saying how she feels, being blunt, being open. I'm not saying everybody's neurodivergent. I'm just saying, like, compared to the rest of her family, maybe not her mom though. Her mom is like very naive and small and just kind of quiet and tiptoes around and is easily manipulated and shit. So maybe not her mom, but at least the rest of her family can just pretend and act like everything's fine. She cannot do that. She cannot maintain that. So she has these extreme emotional expressions when shit becomes too much. She just can't handle it. And that, as she should. Like, she's dealing with this family making these little racist comments over and over. And this nigga Tom is just sitting there like, but you're mad because she's having these angry outbursts and stuff. I mean, if you saw her as a person, logically, you would just start to assume that having to deal with racism to the face every time she visits your family is going to be overwhelming for her over time. And yeah, she's going to explode and have outbursts and be emotional if only just that were the reason, And so I'm looking at Tom, I'm just like, Tom, really? You sit up here? And then she has this like fear of black men. And I was looking on a thing, like Reddit and the reviews, and there's like, she fetishizes white men. And no, she's scared of black men because the nigga that beat her mom and shit and gave her bullshit soliloquies for hours every night for years was a black dude. And so she literally feels deep down inside that black men hate her. And, a lot of us black women feel that way. We don't hate black men. We think that they hate us, and so we don't know how to interact with them, and it's illustrated because, like, after the breakup and she finds out about the miscarriage and stuff like that, her friends are trying to get her out the house. Like, big ups to Chess K, her black girlfriend, and Darcy, her little white girlfriend at work. Them is her road dogs. Like, Darcy, the little white girl, be saying some shit sometimes that be off. But you ain't gonna 100% escape white bullshit when you interact with white people. So I can't even, like, she was corrected and she understood the corrections and she moved on. But no, they held it down in the book, in real life, in the show. They was holding it down for her because she was spiraling. And so she's like spiraling throughout this, and like I was talking about like the black man thing. So like she goes to this party for some other friends that are like a couple or some shit, and I guess they got engaged or something. In the book, it's just like a regular party for them, or that they were having at their house. But like, she's the only black woman there, and usually she's with her man, and he's like, just his presence is enough to make her feel secure in this white environment, but he wasn't there. So she's the only black girl there. And then there's this other black dude that always shows up to these white events that like just looks at her with pure disgust, and they just do a little like glaze over that in the show. Like, there's Sam at the party, he hates me. Why can't you just talk to me, Sam? Like, we're the only black people here. But no, Sam is short for Sambo. His white friends have nicknamed him Sambo. It's like calling your black friend nigger. And he's fine with it. He thinks it's ironic. That's what he said in the book. I think it's ironic. What, Sambo? What? No, because I wouldn't even call, I would be petty as fuck. Anytime the nigga talk to me, I'd be like, how you doing, Sambo? I'm not calling you Sam. No, because you said it's ironic. You said you liked it. So I'm calling you, I'm going to fuck with you now. You let these white people call you Sam. And so every time, she is literally afraid in this book. She's afraid of this nigga. She thinks this nigga hates her. Every time she comes to a white event, he's there. He doesn't talk to her and he just glares at her like she's the evil, wicked witch of the West or some shit. And I'm just like, see, black women, Jim Crow fucked us up because it made us afraid of black men. It fucked black men up because it made them hate us. So that's how it separated us. And the first black men we interact with, a lot of times they abandon us. They abuse us. A lot of black women are out here with dads that aren't in their life. And, things like that. So I understood the fear. I liked the ending in the movie better, though, because Frank isn't in the book. There is no random black nigga in the background being gentle and kind to Queenie and waiting for her to get her shit together and falling in love with her. I feel like the show just kind of illustrated, it added that piece. It was kind of like there are certain parts in the show that kind of makes it seem like the author, because it's based off of her life and stuff. So it makes it seem like the author, this book was written in 2019 or published in 2019. So I feel like the author over time realized that that's a fear she probably shouldn't have. Because it just perpetuates white supremacy when every black man ain't a piece of shit. It's a lot of them, because a lot of them don't want to get help, but every single black man ain't a piece of shit. And so to have her heal in that way where she could be loved on by, now I wish he had a career. I feel like we always have to give up something though. I just feel like he was a mover. Frank was a mover. He moved people's shit. And I was just like, all these white men, the white man that was abusing her vagina and shit like that. We'll get to that. It's 8 episodes. We about to be all over the place because I'm not trying to make this shit 2 hours and shit. I'm gonna try my best. The white man that was abused. So I'm assuming that people that watched the show or read the book or some shit before they saw this, they're watching this, so you understand what I'm saying. Because it's not gonna be linear. The white man that was abusing her vagina. In the book, he's a junior doctor. And, you fucking engineers and lawyers and all they white. But then the black dude that's hovering in the background is a mover. We couldn't find a black man that was an accountant or some shit. Because bitches want to buy houses and raise children and, whatever, nigga. Why I always gotta compromise and give up something? I refuse. I'm not giving up. You gonna be black, you gonna be my height, you gonna be attractive to me. These are the bare minimums. The bar is set in hell. This is average. And then everything else is going to be above average when it comes to your emotional stability and how we mesh as a couple. So anyways, the bare minimum, be my height, have a good career, be black. You got to be attractive to me. Emotional stability, financial stability. That's the bare minimum. And then from there, we can see what else you got. And based off of what else you got attached to that bare minimum, we can either proceed or we stopping this shit right here, because you ain't about to be rich and then lock me in a motherfucking basement, nigga. You crazy. Because money's not the stopping point. Money's not the stopping point, but it is an important feature that we need. So yes, they introduced a black man, but I was just like, I wish he had a career, I wish he had like maybe he owned a moving company. Maybe that's his. Maybe he owned it. I don't know. But they inserted him just to help her kind of realize that fear and get past it. Because every black man she saw, she literally saw that nigga that was abusing her. She was having flashbacks and shit when she was hanging out with her friend and Frank and shit at the bar. Thought he said some shit he didn't and shit, and he was just looking at her like, what's going on? And she was like, oh, nothing, never mind. I know, girl, you having flashbacks, can't control flashbacks. That shit just happens. That's why you need a patient nigga that understands it. Sometimes shit just happens in your body when you've been traumatized for so long that you need to process and stabilize yourself, and you need people around you that kind of understand that and don't take it personally. But anyways, like, this nigga Tom is trash. I don't give a fuck. I have no sympathy for him, but he breaks up with her and then he treats her like a piece of garbage. Like, they just move in together. This nigga kicks her out the house. In the book, he's talking about like, oh, well, I'm a web developer, so I can still afford to pay for this house. You need to find a new place to live. And I'm just like, he literally could live with his parents because they all have money, and let her figure her shit out instead of like making it so that she has to move out in like a week or some shit. So she's looking around finding new places to live. In the book, they actually spread it out and show like the shit she had to go through while looking for places to live. Like I said, London is scary and dark and dreary, and them buildings are old and from 1800s and on and shit like that. And like, she was looking at all these little flats apartments and shit like that. And like, she got sexually harassed in one of them. This dude tried to touch her titty and shit, talking about, I'll lower the rent if you give me some. And I'm just like, girl. And so she finally finds this moldy ass, old ass house. They call it a flat, but it would look like a house. But like, I thought flats were apartments, but maybe they call houses flats too. I don't fucking know. I don't live there. And it's old and moldy. It looks like it's from the Victorian age. And it's just, that's all she could afford, because she literally was making $21,000 pounds, but it's not too off from dollars. So basically $21,000 a year. And so like, she moves out into this trashy ass place, and she's just going through it. Like, she feels abandoned, and it's reminding her of her abandonment of her mother. And when she got with that abusive nigga, it's reminding her of her abandonment from with her father, who was married, and basically his wife didn't like her, and so he wasn't even really in her life like he was supposed to be. And so it's hard for her to see herself as a person and see herself as someone deserving of love. And even you can see it, like, people think these are offhanded, experiences, but when she was at the gynecologist is talking to her like she's a slab of meat on the table. Ain't even remembering her name, jabbing the damn speculum up into her vagina and shit, like talking about, oh, she said, ouch, that hurt. She said, oh, you'll be fine, you're a strong girl, going all into that medical shit where they don't think we're people and shit. I would have looked at that doctor and I'm like, you better be gentle, bitch. I'm not strong. I have a regular vagina just like you. You want me to jab a fork up in your shit? See, I'm crazy. No, you're not gonna sit up here and treat me like I'm not a person, because first I learned how to love myself, and now I'm learning that I'm not allowing that shit around in my life that doesn't love me and doesn't treat me like I'm a human being. Like, I'm not allowing that, because she could have tore her shit up, didn't even give a fuck. You see, and then she works at this magazine, and then even her boss is like gaslighting her. Every time she brings up a pitch, she's like, oh, well, maybe you don't need, you need to kind of rework that, and maybe stay in your place, and da-da-da. And I'm just like, why are you telling her to stay in her? Why are you telling her that she can't climb higher? Why? So you see her as like your little worker bee or some shit? Like, is that what it is? Like, you don't see her as a person with talent and, thing. I'm confused. Because then later on she gonna act like she care, but no, it's wishy-washy. It's giving wishy-washy and inconsistent. And so like, you see these moments where like she's just not seen, like her and her friend Cheske. And let me know if you are Ugandan, what is the grammar around two K's making a sound? Because that's how Chess K's name is spelled. It's like, it's a KK and then the rest of the word. And I'm just, what's the grammar rules around that? I just got used to, the Spanish where the J sounds like an H. Okay. I just, is it just cause? Like, I just want to know, like, is it just, it's like in English, like you got them words that are spelled the same but sound different just cause? Like, is it like that? Or is there like a reason? Like, is it a sound that is a part of the language? That I'm just curious. I think it's pretty. I just wanted to know, like, what was the rules around it? Like the grammar rules and shit. But anyways, Chess K and her is at the club, right, with Frank and shit, and they hanging out. And some white bitch just comes up. She's staring at Queenie's ass. And then she's smiling. And that look. And then she go over and grab her ass, talking about, I love it. Like it's like she's a walking piece of Play-Doh that people can just squish. Do you know how draining and upsetting that is over time, to feel like your body is just some piece of meat that people feel like they can grab on whenever you want? Like your hair is just a piece of meat, like your legs. Don't be a bigger black woman, tall or fat or curvy. It's even worse. It just feels like you don't exist, like you're invisible, like your humanity isn't real. And imagine experiencing that. It's like the show made me feel claustrophobic, because it's like it reminds me of how surrounded I am by people that don't see me as a human, and how I have to work every day to see myself as one, because it's so hard when you're surrounded by a world that doesn't see you as a person, especially when it's your own people, like black men and shit like that. Like, they don't see you as a human. They don't see your pain or your frustrations or your hurt or how delicate and fragile you are. They just see that you're angry and you're loud and you're too fucking much. They don't see what led you up to that. They don't care about what led you up to that. So the girl grabbed her ass in the club. Chess K come through. Chess K got the confidence of a god. She just like, bitch, what the fuck you doing? And then the girls just start crying, like white tears, like, oh my gosh, I was just trying to be. Now here come these black bouncers talking about, oh, you messing with this little white girl. Fuck her. She touching on me. What are you talking about? So you hit her? And it's like, what are you talking about? Like, she shouldn't have, this is my privacy. Like, what do you mean? Yeah, like, no, Chess K didn't even hit the girl. The girl lied on Chess K and said that she hit her. This some bullshit. And so they got kicked out the club, and it's just like you ain't seen. It's some bullshit. So she ends up fucking this Pakistani dude that's been her neighbor. In the book it says he's been her neighbor for years, and like he been macking her up for years. And so finally she ended up just when Tom leaves, she ended up fucking this nigga. And what it made me realize is that these niggas be waiting around, seeing our low self-esteem just bleeding off of us, and waiting for us to fall and end up fucking them. They be scoping us out, waiting for us. And we have to be strong enough to notice that nigga ain't shit before we end up doing some stupid shit. That's all it is. She went to a therapist. At the end, the therapist was like, oh, you are having sex with a bunch of people because of your abandonment issues and da-da-da-da. And you didn't even validate the fact that these niggas was scoping her out, trying to talk to her, bothering her, like at her job. There's this white nigga that she ended up fucking on Christmas, right? His name is Ted, right? He was new to the job. It don't show in the show. And I don't know if they trying to make these white people look better than they were in the book, because the uncle sure did say nigger and they didn't put it in the show. And this nigga Ted, they made it seem like, oh, in the show, like, oh, she was just like, she was interested in flirting with this nigga and they like each other and they had a few moments and then they fucked in the bathroom on the floor. That was so gross, disgusting, because she's a very clean bitch. Like, that's her cultural thing. Like, her grandmother is super clean and shit like that. And the fact that, like, you could see the grime on the floor and it was gross, and there are people's pee splatters on the floor and it was gross. But anyways, in the book, Ted basically groomed this bitch because she was off of him. She wasn't trying to talk to him like that. She was trying to be good and wait for Tom and, not have sex with somebody that she could potentially catch feelings for and all this other stuff, and just having casual sex that she wasn't even really into either. But Ted kept emailing her. He would email her every day, and they would just have conversations about. And then they had this little spot in the park they would go to and sit. And even when they had sex, when they finally had sex on Christmas, and she came to the office to do the extra work that that white bitch wanted her to do, she said no at first. She was about to leave. She was about to get on the elevator and leave that bitch. This nigga grabbed her arm and pulled her to the bathroom. That's what happened in the book. He wasn't standing outside the bathroom door and then they just decided to fuck. No, he grabbed her arm and pulled her to the bathroom, and then she said, well, fuck it then. I guess I'll just fuck him. She didn't want to do that. She was basically punishing herself with these niggas' dicks because she would dissociate during sex and just think that she deserved it. Like, oh, this is what I deserve. I don't deserve kindness or love. This is how deeply fucked up her mental health was. And so like the people that was out there saying, oh, she's so annoying, da 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 da, no, is she mirroring who you used to be? Is that what it is? Because I felt her mirroring who I used to be. And you don't like seeing yourself. People don't like seeing themselves. They don't like seeing the shit that they went through and stuff like that. But I think I needed to see it, and I think other people needed to see it. This is how bad it gets. It gets even worse than this when black women have mental health issues and the world is squeezing them and squeezing them and squeezing them. She could have ended up a crackhead. That's why we end up being in fucked up situations and fucked up relationships and doing fucked up shit because we just say, well, damn it, no one cares. Why should I? Why should I care? And then you end up a crackhead, or you end up in some abusive ass relationship, or you end up being an abuser, or you just end up in. She could have ended up in a much worse place. This is light work right here, girl. This is light work. You don't like seeing yourself. You don't like seeing most of this is most of our 20s. Like I know multiple black women that were wilding out and people thought they were crazy and all this other shit when I was in my 20s. I wasn't by myself in this. And it was all because of this abandonment stuff and feeling like you're not a person and feeling like your body's a piece of meat and anybody can just touch it. And the thing is like, because that happens to me. Like I was at Disneyland one time and niggas was grazing me, and the feeling of being grazed and inappropriately, like on your ass or your breast, or just someone touching you without your permission, and you know that it was on purpose. You know that it was on purpose. Like you're not fucking crazy. They will try to gaslight. That's why they do it like that. Like if they're in a crowd and they just pass by and graze your whole ass cheek and stuff like that. They do it like that so if you turn around and say anything, they can just gaslight you and be like, what do you mean? I was just walking past you. You see, it's a crowd. And then you look crazy. You look crazy. So in those moments, you have to decide, do I want to make a scene and have everybody looking at me and not be on my side and feel like I'm crazy? Or do I want to swallow it and just go? And it's like this burning feeling from your chest to your stomach, that sexual assaulty feeling. It's like, and it stays with you. Like I was at Disneyland and it happened, and it was just staying. That shit stayed with me for like an hour after that shit. And I was trying to have fun, and it passed eventually. But it's just like every single time that shit happens, I want to turn around and bust somebody in the fucking face. Like, don't touch me, because you know it's on purpose. And you didn't touch my whole ass cheek on accident. No, you didn't. No, because everybody else walking around here ain't touched me. Even though there's a crowd, you just happen to. The nigga that kept staring at you and trying to get closer to you, and you kept moving away and acting like you didn't see him, and then all of a sudden you feel a whole graze on your ass cheek. Okay, girl. And the next thing you know, if I had turned around and bust his ass in the face, then I would have been banned from all the Disneyland. No, that's how Disney does you. That's how Disney does you. It don't matter if it wasn't your fault and shit. They will ban you. When you get banned from one Disneyland, you get banned from all the Disneylands around the world. And I was just like, I'm just gonna let God handle this person, and I hope they die slow in the name of Jesus and move on. No, I do. I hope you die slow. I hope the hand that you touch me with gets the flesh-eating disease and it starts to rot off. That's how much it bothers me, and that's how much it bothers most women, especially black women, when that shit happens and we can't do anything about it, because if we do, we're going to turn around and confront you, and you're going to make us look crazy in front of everybody, and then we're going to be looking crazy and get escorted out of the premises and shit like that. And I just... And the fact that it's happened throughout my life, that grazing, that imperceptible touching of my body that does not belong to you, That's one of the reasons I don't like hugging niggas. Like even some women too will do it. Like I don't know, like I've had former friends that are just like, they want to fuck you. They want to fuck you. I had a former friend, I had to tell over and over again to stop fucking touching me until eventually I just stopped hanging out with the bitch because I was going to hurt her. Like she was bringing up some traumas from my past every time she touched me inappropriately, and I know I would have dragged that hoe. So I had to just excommunicate. Stop going around that bitch. Stop going around that bitch because you're gonna do something and you're gonna go to jail. You're gonna black out and you're gonna go to jail. So some women too. And so that's why I don't like getting hugs, because that's when niggas try you. They hug you and then they do that slow release or it's fucking, don't touch me, bitch. This is my body. Like, it's just, and so I'm watching this and I'm just so upset for her, and I just know what it feels like, and it's just claustrophobia just rising up inside of you, and you can't do nothing and you can't say nothing. And then like her family, you can see throughout the generations of black women, they just got this thing where they don't talk about their problems. And this is like throughout the black diaspora, like we just don't talk about our problems, and I think part of it is white supremacy and white people running the psychology thing for a long time. So like it was pointless to go to it. Even when she went to a therapist, like that bitch was trying to invalidate the fact that people did shit to her. Yeah, she was selfish. Yeah, she had outbursts. Yeah, she felt abandoned and would fuck random niggas and shit and punish herself on regular niggas. On niggas, on white dudes and shit like that. But the fact that she didn't validate the fact that she had been, going through discrimination with her ex and his family, the fact that she didn't validate that as a black woman you are seen as some bullshit out in the world and people treat you like either you're invisible or you're just a piece of meat or an animal in a zoo to touch and look at and shit like that. A lot of black women have social anxiety because of that. Don't be curvy, don't be big, that's even worse. They just be staring at you and looking at you, some with hatred in their eyes, some with lust, some with a mixture of hatred and lust. Like, you not a fucking person. And it's exhausting. And this bitch didn't even validate her. This bitch was just like, you're just going and she had to explain to this woman. And then I was like, why didn't she go to a black therapist? And I was like, oh, it's because it's coming from like their version of the county or something. And this is based off of the author's real life. And so like I'm assuming the author ended up with a white therapist. And it's like, even in therapy, you still have to do work. You still have to explain things to people when they should just get that you're a human being and you shouldn't be called nigger at a dinner table. Shit. I'm exhausted. I am. And like nobody is seeing this shit. Like, am I the only one? And then like she had all this trauma in her family. Like her mom is like this soft-spoken, like light-skinned woman, and she was in the book. So in the book, when she was, before that evil nigga came along, her and her mom had a house and they lived together in the house, and they were like this. They were like best friends, like almost a codependency. Like her and her mom would dress up the same and do shit like that. And so there was a slight tinge of codependency there, but they were enjoying their little world until this man came along and took her mom's attention and manipulated her mom and abused her mom into being codependent on him. Right? We all need therapy. And so what happened is, over time, this man hated the little girl, hated Queenie. And so what he did was he made her and her First, he abused her mom and manipulated her into selling her house. And then he used the money to buy his own house. And first he had her mom and Queenie up in the house. And then he kicked her mom and Queenie out the house, and she had to get her own little apartment situation. And then at first her and her mom were in the apartment. And then what happened was her mom started going and hanging out with the dude and living at the house while Queenie lived in the flat. And Queenie had to live in the flat at 11 years old by herself for months. And so there was just this complete physical and emotional abandonment from her mom. And I low-key, and I want to be hesitant and gentle about this because this is based off of somebody's real life, there was no mention of sexual abuse in the book or in the show. But I feel like the signs were there, and maybe something happened, maybe it didn't. But The signs were, so in the book, Queenie is having sleep paralysis where she wakes up and but her body is still asleep, and she sees a strange man in the corner coming towards her trying to get her, right? She has nightmares where she is fighting in her sleep. Like, so when she was with her ex and then with the nigga that was like, abusing her vagina and shit, she would like kick and fight and scream in her sleep as if something was trying to get her. She did not like to be touched, and it was almost like a flinching, like a fear of being touched. And the therapist in the book and in the show was like, oh well, I don't think it was in the show, but mainly in the book, therapist was all like, oh well, like, you feel like people are going to abandon you if they touch you or some shit. And I was just like, you ain't looking at all the other things and creating a pattern. You just, if you just think that's, I feel like there was more to it than that. Like, cause usually like that's a sign of sexual abuse, is that people either don't want to be touched at all. They'll go to an extreme of making their bodies dirty, like, and smelly, because that's the way that they stopped their abusers from touching them, was that they would stop taking baths and stuff. And so that is retained as a trauma response until you get healed and shit. Like, that's the extreme that people will go. And so, like, or the other extreme is you're very promiscuous. And she was very promiscuous when everybody abandoned her. Like, that was another thing. So there was the promiscuity and things like that, and feeling like, well, at least I can control something when it comes to intimacy and stuff like that. That's how the other therapist was wording it. But I was just like, well, with the not wanting to be touched, and then the promiscuity, and the night terrors where she's scared that something is gonna get her and she's fighting in her sleep, and the sleep paralysis where she sees a man coming towards her. I mean, some people see demons and shit, but no, I feel like with all of those signs, it may have been some sexual abuse from Roy. There may have been some kind of sexual abuse from Roy that hasn't been, maybe it was repressed. Maybe she doesn't remember it. That's how our brain helps us defend ourselves. It represses the memory. But, like the book says, the body keeps score. So the body, your nervous system still remembers being abused, even if your cognitive mind and visual memories don't remember it. And so I feel like something more was going on there. But, she didn't mention it, so I don't want to just be jumping the gun, but it feels like it. So, it would explain a lot, is all I'm saying. Like, if you look up symptoms of sexual abuse, they was all there, is all I'm saying. So, like, she got all this shit going on. She's being promiscuous with all these white dudes. Like, she and then she meets this dude called Guy at a Halloween party for her job or some shit. He seemed cool at first. He was having a regular conversation, seemed pretty decent or whatever. Get her back home. He just like basically punching her in the ass. Girl, and even in the book, you could pinpoint the moment she dissociated in the book. Like, she would just be laying there taking that shit. And it's like, well, maybe this is, and then she would go tell her friends about it, like she had a good time, when in reality, no, she didn't. Like, she went to the gynecologist after fucking around with this nigga. There was vaginal tearing. What type of bullshit? Like, in the book, he had sharp fingernails and was just jamming it into her fucking vagina. I'm tired. There was vaginal tearing. There was anal tearing. There was it scared the doctor. The doctor thought she was being abused. And she was like, I'm not being abused. I'm not her, referring to her mom. I'm not going to be like her. Girl, you letting this nigga abuse your vagina. And then, like, he would just randomly show up at her fucking house, and I'll just be like, this nigga. And then he showed up drunk at her fucking house, loud and shit, on like Christmas or New Year's or some shit. It was some bullshit. And I was just like, why is this girl? People know me. They know not to do. Girl, I will call the police. I will not open the door, and I will call the police. I don't care. Why are you at my house? And So he just randomly is showing up at her house, and like she accepts it for a while, and eventually she tells him, no, I don't want to fuck you anymore, like you're tearing up my vagina and my asshole and shit. And girl, I thought he was about to rape her. Like that's low-key why I read the book. I was like, these niggas really, you said no to them and they like didn't rape you? Like, cause like it's very borderline. Like she wasn't sexually assaulted because she allowed the stuff, even though she didn't like it. Sometimes we do things that we don't like, and we just accept it. And in the beginning, she wasn't saying no, and she wasn't like, it's very borderline because coercion is real and it is sexual assault, but like, and dudes should be able to tell from body language that you're not into something. So I don't know. There are shades of gray in this. Was she sexually assaulted? What do y'all think? Don't come on here with no bullshit. Like, no, what do y'all think? I feel like sometimes we allow shit that we don't like when we don't like ourselves, and sometimes that's sexual shit too. And I don't think that that's sexual assault. I think that we're just allowing shit to happen because we don't like ourselves. And we make excuses for it and stuff like that. I think he was physically abusive. You don't be putting bruises and tearing people's vagina up and shit. But the thing is, like, she went back for more. And then she was telling herself, well, maybe I can make him be gentle. This girl, no, you're not going to make. What's going on? What's going? See, that's why I feel like she was sexually abused or some shit as a kid. Like she very easily normalizes this shit like immediately, and it just feels like some other shit happened besides the 2 or 3 hour bullshit soliloquies that she had to endure every night at dinner time from this nigga when she was a kid. I just feel like something else happened. But yeah, so she tells this nigga, like, one night he comes over drunk, banging on the door. She's like, no more sex, you gotta sleep on that couch, da 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 da. And like he persists and tries, but then she just puts her foot down and he stops. And I'm just like, this nigga isn't a rapist. Wow, like he's giving off like I would force you to do stuff if I wanted to, but like he's not. And so like he was whiny about it and like, but she was like, no, nigga, fuck you. And she ended up sleeping like separate from him and shit. And then like even Ted, the office nigga, he was just like, she got drunk at the office event on the show. I don't think this happened in the book, but she got drunk at the office event on the show. And this nigga took her home and laid her out on her bed and put some water and some Tums or whatever next to her and shit. And like helped her change her clothes and shit. He didn't assault her. And I was just like, look at that. Look at that. The bar is in hell when you just give somebody kudos for not sexually assaulting somebody. When you give a nigga kudos for not sexually assaulting, like the bar really is in hell. I was like, okay, well at least he's not a rapist. He's just a whiny ass loser nigga. Shit. And so anyways, the vagina tearing up nigga, like the next day after he sleeps at her house and shit. So she got this friend called Cassandra. And she got this like group chat with her friends. And like, we're not going to like act like Queenie ain't selfish. Queenie's selfish. She ain't realizing that she basically put 3 of her friends that didn't know each other, that were from different points in her life that she had that were really close, into one group chat without asking their permission. That could have went south real quick. One of them was Cheska, and she met her in high school. The other one was Darcy. She met her at work. And the other one was this bitch Cassandra, who she met in college. And basically she using the group chat as her personal therapy sessions. And we very rarely see the other girls talking about their problems or issues or whatever. Because low key in the book, I feel like Darcy dating this older nigga in the book. And like in a few parts, I was side-eyeing it a little bit, like when she was texting Queenie, and then she would say shit like, "Oh yeah, my older nigga hid my phone because he wanted us to like, communicate more." Like, what do you mean? Like me being me, I was like, what do you mean he hid your phone? That's not healthy. Or like they went to France on vacation and he wanted to stay up in the villa most of the time so they could work on their relationship and shit. Like we're on vacation. What are you talking about? So I'm looking at Darcy too, like, girl, are you going through something? Like, he's 15 years older than her and shit. And I'm just like, Darcy, girl, like, blink twice if you need help. I know Queenie ain't paying attention because she going through her own shit and she be selfish and shit sometimes. But like, you need to blink twice if you need help because this nigga sounds like low key something's going on. But yeah, Queenie's selfish. Every time she in a group with her friends, it's all about her and her problems, all this other shit. So but the thing is like, I don't know. Like, okay, so she put her friends all in the group chat together. I think it was around the point in time when she like broke up with her ex, like, because in the book it seems like it was around the point in time. So I don't know if she was selfish like that beforehand, like before Tom broke up with her and shit like that. So I can't say. So it's a matter of a few months when she was spiraling and she needed her girls to be around her and shit. So I think that's why K and Darcy were more understanding, because they saw her spiraling downward and shit. Cassandra been a bitch, always been a bitch, will always be a bitch. And I just feel like even Darcy and K like don't like Cassandra. And in the book, Cassandra always has some shit to say when K made sent a message in the group chat. She always has some snarky shit to say every time K says some shit in the group chat. And I was just like, this bitch is a hoe. Darcy was just like, because Cassandra wants to be a psychiatrist or some shit, so she was always so she wanted them therapists that got the job because she has a God complex. So there's a lot of therapists out there that wanted to be that because they have God complexes and they want to feel superior over people. So they specifically got a job that made them feel superior over people. And so that's why you have to vet your therapist, because they're just human beings with issues and shit just like you, and you need to make sure that you like them as a person before you like them as a professional. So like Cassandra she been a bitch, always been a bitch. And in the book, like, even Queenie knows that this bitch is a bitch, and she be making excuses for this bitch. So when you don't like yourself, you just surround yourself by toxic people because you just normalize it. You just like, oh well, the whole world is this way. The whole world is like, and then you don't like yourself, and you low key. And she's even said it in the book, like, I deserve this. I deserve to have my vagina ripped in half. And girl. So obviously, if that you cross that over into friendship, she thinking she deserved to be treated like this by this bitch. And then also she said that she prefers, like, she likes Cassandra's dad because he's like a dad figure to her, and he was the first male figure that treated her kindly. So now we're putting this this like blueprint of what a man should be we taking that from Cassandra's dad, and that goes back into why she dating a bunch of white people. I hate that she was dating a white man. I hate that she was afraid of black men, but then I hate that black men made her afraid of them. And I'm glad that they rectified that in the show, because at the end of the book, she was just single. She was just out here. She went on one date with some dude that turned out to be a whole racist, and then she left. She went back to his house too, girl. I'm so glad that she didn't get raped or murdered by any of these random ass, especially white dudes. No, they be doing shit like that. Like, I'm not saying black dudes don't rape and murder, but like white dudes they're serial killers. I'm just glad she didn't run into a serial killer and get buried in somebody's basement or some shit. So her dad is like the blueprint of what she wants in a man and shit, and like he's a father figure for her, and so that's the main reason that she hangs around Cassandra and shit. And it's like, girl, Cassandra's a bitch, and she makes you feel bad about yourself. And yeah, you tell your friends about themselves, but you don't do it in the way Cassandra did. You don't be a bitch about it. You read the fucking room and realize that your friend's going through shit, and so she needs to be let down easy, bitch, like Darcy and K was doing. And I'm just like, I hated Cassandra. I hated her from jump. Like, even the way that she met Cassandra because Cassandra came up to her and was like, we're the only two minorities here at the college. We need to stick together. I'm like, Cassandra, nobody's clocking you as a minority. You do not have this black woman's experience at all. Nobody is clocking you. Everyone's clocking you as a white woman. And if you're an Ashkenazi Jew, then you a white, then you white. Like, those are European Jews. So like, you not a minority, honey. Like, what? You're not getting clocked as a minority. You haven't had a whole life experience of claustrophobia everywhere you go, even to the doctor's office. They're looking at your vagina and gently inserting the sonogram stick. They're not jabbing it in there and talking about, you're a strong horse. You're a strong horse. Like, I made sure that my gynecologist is this little white woman, and she give me like cheerleader vibes. Like, she's just like this little white woman that's just really hyper and happy and shit like that. And I made sure that she was a decent doctor. Now she's my permanent gynecologist because I'm with Kaiser, and so there's not a lot of black gynecologists. You got to get what you can get, but she's nice. I was able to ask her all these questions, and she didn't like get an attitude with me for asking questions about my body and shit like that. And she's always gentle with me and friendly and shit like that. Just I like her little vibe, her little cheerleader vibe and shit. Because when you love yourself, you make sure that every area you surround yourself with decent fucking people. Because I'm not putting up with that shit. I need a new gynecologist at this hospital, but she was only making 21,000 pounds a year, and so euros, pounds, whatever the fuck. So she had to take what she could get. But anyways, yeah. So anyways, guy comes, spends the night, right? And Cassandra's been talking about that she's been dating some nigga for like the past since November. Guy comes and sleeps over in like December, like New Year's and shit, and the next day Cassandra has like a lunch brunch date with Queenie and shit. So she's been dating this new guy since November, right? New guy doesn't want to have sex with her. She be saying that she just doesn't want to have penetrative sex, but come to find out, new guy just didn't want to have sex with her. And like, she just feels like he's being hot and cold, and she doesn't understand why he's acting this way, and da. So like, they having brunch, right? In the book, they actually went to brunch, came back, and Cassandra forgot her umbrella at Queenie's house before she got on the bus, and so she ran back to Queenie's house. Here come guy walking down the stairs, and Queenie's just like, she ain't even clocking what's going on. She's like, why are you still here? Because she left him there in the morning to go and have brunch with Cassandra. This was in the book. In the show, she comes to the house and niggas walking down the stairs. But in the book, she like actually has brunch with her, comes back, and like dude is walking downstairs, and she's just looking at this dude like, why are you still here? Like, she had and she's been telling the group chat about this nigga since she met him in October. So she's known this nigga before Cassandra even met him. And then Cassandra was just like, why are you fucking my boyfriend? And da and that. And then she's mad at Queenie. Like, she's mad at Queenie. And I'm just like, girl. And then Queenie's just like, I just lose everyone and no one loves me. And I'm like, girl, this bitch has been showing you signs that she don't like you since you met her. She's been showing you signs that she doesn't see you as a real human being since you met her. She just sees you as a case study. She even said, I wonder if Cassandra's going to make me her case study when she becomes a psychiatrist. Yeah, you already her case study, girl. She probably was about to write a whole research article about you in your life. Like, she does not see you she sees you as a fucking specimen. So of course she's mad at Queenie. And in the book, like, at some point Cassandra wants to have a second conversation, and she invites Queenie to her house, and she basically sits there and makes Queenie feel like shit. Oh, that's why no one wants you, and you just have sex with everyone, da da da. And then she goes and moves to a different town, or whatever they call it over there in England, with Guy. With the ripping your vagina open. And Queenie's just confused. Like, she's just like, why are you moving in with this nigga after I've been telling you for months? Even if I didn't know that this was your nigga, like, I've been telling the group chat for months that he's abusive and that he rips my vagina apart and he makes me bleed and he's crazy and all this other stuff. And he's literally been cheating on you this whole relationship. Actually, he's been cheating on me. I mean, they wasn't together, like, but still, like, low key, if you want to look at it that way, he's been cheating on me with you this whole time. Girl, because I knew him before he even met you. And like, you really gonna live with this nigga? You gonna pick this nigga that you know for 2 months or 3 months or whatever the months over somebody that you know since college for a decade, bitch? Girl. And in the book, like, they tentatively make friends again at her like celebration dinner because she went to therapy and her family's proud of her for overcoming her mental health issues, or being on the road to healing. And you heal forever and shit anyways, but getting on that road and maintaining it. And she shows up at the birthday dinner because she contacted Darcy and shit. And I'm just like, I like the movie ending better, and I just felt like the movie ending is like the what you wish you had done. What you wish you had done, like when you get to a certain age and you look back on the decisions that you made when you're at a certain healing point, and this is what I wish I had done instead of invited that bitch back into my life to cause havoc for the next 3 or 4 years before I finally cut her the fuck off. Quitting her job in the show. She quit her job because that bitch shouldn't have believed Ted over her. Cause Ted, okay, so let me go back. Cause Ted, basically what happened was they fucked in the bathroom on the floor. And then she goes back to work after the holidays and sees Ted, and she just trying to act regular. Like, hey Ted, what's up? What's up? And Ted act like she ain't shit on the bottom of his shoe. He just ignores her. He ignores her in the book too. And then finally she confronts Ted. And it's like, what's going on? And then in the show, Ted had told them that she was harassing him and shit. And so she had to take a leave. That was the immediate. But in the book, so in the show, she meets the wife. And the wife knows that Ted fucked her because you could tell, like, Ted's done this before. He's cheated on his wife before. And so she knows immediately. And so that was supposed to be the catalyst to why Ted went and wanted to get her fired and shit like that. In the book, she never met the wife. Ted just did that on his own. See, they try to make these white people look better than they are. And I hate it. She never met the wife. Ted went and tried to get her fucking fired on his own. And this was after, like, she confronted him and he told her that it was done. And she was like, oh, okay, well, fine then. And she lied and said she got back with her ex. And then she stopped talking to him completely. She left this nigga alone. And he still went on his own. This is in the book. He went on his own behind her back and went to HR and said she was flirting with him. And he did this because he couldn't handle seeing her in the office every day because something's wrong with him and he's crazy. And I want to see that, but I feel like it's hard for white people to conceptualize their own evil. It's hard for white people to conceptualize being other white people calling a black girl a nigger and shit like that. I feel like that's part of it, you know? And so, like, this nigga literally in the book, she didn't do anything. She cut him off. She stopped talking to him. He was the one that pursued her. She even said it in the book, like the Pakistani nigga. She saw him on the street. She was walking home from work. This nigga was like, you know, she just went up to him to say hi because he was her neighbor. He was always saying hi to her and shit. This nigga's wife was in the car and she cussed her out because she left her panties in the glove box. Never leave your panties in the glove box, y'all. She left her panties in, and she was like, is this that fat black bitch? And calling her nigga in their language and shit like that. And I was just like, and this nigga tried to act like he didn't know her and all sorts of shit. And so she was like, and then he acted like he didn't know me and like I was just a piece of garbage on the street. And then people are going to be out there and going to be like, well, she should have known that these niggas were going to do this and da-da-da-da. Now, when you haven't known different, how is she supposed to know? If you've never known different, this is how you think men move. And so you feel like you have to do something to make them like change and be. That's why she kept trying the vagina ripper. That's why she kept thinking that maybe if I talk to him, maybe if he'll listen to me. And that, no, he didn't, girl. He didn't. Like you kept trying, he didn't. And that's why, like, until you go to therapy, you are going to keep allowing the same fucked up people into your life. Because either you think you deserve it, you've never seen anything better than that, or you think that you don't deserve anything outside of sex, because if people actually got to know you and you became vulnerable and open, they would just leave. So it was like it hurts even worse when you're vulnerable and open and shit like that, because now I have feelings and shit, so at least I can control just fucking. And so you think you just fucking people. It's like she wasn't trying to be with this Pakistani nigga. She wasn't trying to be with Ted like that. Like well, she was trying to be with Ted. She had a little feelings for him and shit. She thought but Ted played her. Ted was emailing her for months, and he was playing the game for months like he liked her, and was whispering sweet nothings in her ear and shit like that before she finally gave in and shit like that. So she thought Ted played the game like he did like her. Yes, she should have noticed the red flags, that he never asked her out on a real date, that he didn't want to have her seen in public, he didn't want the office. Yes, she should have seen the red flags, but it's like, it's hard to see the red flags when this is the best you ever got. Like in the book, she even says she's not used to men being nice to her. So the fact that he was just nice to her was enough. He didn't have to do all the extras. And so that's how bad it gets. Like, I don't understand what people don't understand about that. Like, literally, that's how bad it gets when you ain't never had better. And like that, it is what it is. And you never learn to love yourself. And you never learn that people can love you. And you never learn that you're beautiful. And you never know. And she had a good male role model in her grandfather and, you know, things like that. But it was just like, at the age of 11, her mom separated her from her home family, moved her in the house with this evil nigga that told her she ain't shit every single day for hours at a time. That built up those thought patterns that she ain't shit. Is it what it was? She didn't get to see her grandfather like that. And then when she finally got out that apartment where she was staying by herself, she lived with her grandfather. She lived with her aunt. She was moved around the family members, and that made her feel even more like she wasn't worth nothing. And then she lived with her dad, who, it was horrible because his wife didn't like her. So she continuously was made to feel over and over again that she wasn't special, that nobody wanted her. So why was she supposed to know that these behaviors are not normal or okay, when she's never experienced anything different really on a consistent basis from a man? So like, I feel it. Like a lot of black women are out here like that. They haven't felt anything different. And the only time they did feel something that felt slightly better was from a white man. At least they pretended to be nice to her, you know, versus the black dudes that immediately, as soon as they see you, they glare at you. And it's like, they don't want to come up and talk to you. They don't want to be gentle with you. They don't want to see you as a human being or a person that matters and shit. Like off top, white dudes will fake it. White dudes will fake it and pretend like, because they have a fetish. So you don't know if it's a fetish or if they actually like you until you get deeper into the conversation and realize, oh no, he called me chocolate like 5 fucking times during this conversation. Wait a minute. She just was like, oh, he called me chocolate. Maybe is that racist? Like, she even asked herself, why are you asking, girl? I know. But she got her together towards the end. Like, you get to see the process of what it takes for a black woman to work through the shit that that's been piled on her head in this claustrophobic ass world. All this time, you got to see the process of what it looks like when you turn into a whole mess and you having panic attacks and all sorts of shit, and you breaking down and you using sex to comfort yourself and all this other shit. And you get to see the cycles that have been repeated in your family and shit. Like the grandmother, her mom, you know, might have been an outside child, you know, because the grandmother, in the book they told the story, the grandmother, like the grandfather had went to America first to establish himself or whatever and get like work and make money. And I think he was like, the grandmother was 14. I think the grandfather was like an adult. So she was low key being molested, but you know, whatever. You know, she had a baby when she was 14. She had the first baby when she was 14. And then when the grandfather was over in America, there was this nice man named Albert down the way that was just telling her sweet nothings and da-da-da-da. And she felt like somebody wanted her, so she fucked Albert. We never get a clear, like, is you know, Queenie's mom the grandfathers, or is she not? And we never get it, but it's implied because she light skinned. They keep mentioning she light skinned. Everybody's dark and stuff like that. So it could be. But yeah, I mean, it's like, if you've never, the brain is a brain of habit, and will build actual neural networks around the habits you create. And those neural networks are the things that spike up and spark up and get triggered when you get triggered by something that reminds you of your trauma or some shit like that. And those neural networks are the things that make you have panic attacks or feel depressed or whatever, until you do your toxic coping skill of choice. And when you do your toxic coping skill of choice, those neural networks calm down for a little bit. So in order to change those neural networks, you have to start building up new habits that will create new neural networks. So you have to be consistent with those habits, going to therapy, meditation, massages, positive self-talk to get rid of the negative narrative that's been in your mind since the beginning of your traumatic experiences and stuff like that. You got to do the work to change that pattern in your brain. And so, but first you got to know that there's a pattern in your brain that's not okay, that you're accepting bullshit in your life, because you can only be in control of yourself. Yes, these men were manipulating her and things like that, but a bitch that loves herself ain't gonna fall for that shit. But she had to get to the point where she could love herself, and no one gives black women a chance to get to that point. They just like, oh, she's so annoying. Like, oh my gosh, like, this is Black Bridget Jones. Like, oh my gosh, why is she da-da-da-da? Like, because she's depressed and traumatized and sad and broken and claustrophobic, and people keep touching her, and people keep bothering her, and people keep not understanding that she's a human being and has feelings and emotions and things like that. And so, like, yeah, she's gonna wild out. Like I said, this is light work. This ain't even as bad as it gets. You see them black women, I black women in my family that just be like wilding out and acting crazy and shit like that because of life and trauma and all that shit. Like, this is light work, y'all. You act like you don't got nobody in your family like that. That auntie that be bipolar and shit and be manic and buying shit all the time, or that angry auntie that always is mad about stuff, or that depressed auntie that's always sleeping all the time, or that crackhead auntie that got a drug addiction and shit. Girl, shut up. Because not all of us are strong enough to make it through being claustrophobic and crushed by the world all the time. And I'm not saying black men don't get this, but like, I really do feel that they feel like, a lot of them feel like their salvation is kissing up to white folks. And white folks will entertain black men. They'll entertain them as their little token little friend, and black dudes will think that that's okay. Like the dude Sambo, I am gonna call him, because no, that's his nickname. It's ironic. It's ironic. That dude Sambo, he got his little white girlfriend, and he shows up to these white events, and he feels accepted in this white world, and her black body reminds him every time she shows up that you are different, and he hates it, and he hates her for it. And it's like, why would you want to be a white person? They don't even like their fucking selves, bitch. That's why they treat themselves like that. You know how many white clients I have that be talking about, like, in their communities and shit? Like, I have so many white clients that be growing up in these small towns, and it literally sounds like Midsumner. They be talking about how if you have one little difference, the whole town turns against you. If you're gay, if you look like a minority, even slightly, like, and they'll turn against you at like a young age, like little elementary school kids. You got adults hating elementary school kids because they're a little bit different in these little small towns. That's why I said I want to live in a small town, but white people ruin it and shit. So it's gonna have to be like me living in a small town in Hawaii and shit with the natives. If they'll accept me, I would be honored. What do I need to do to be accepted? I'm not a gentrified. I'm not. Like, what kind of things do I need to do to preserve the land and the spiritualness of the land? Let me know. Because I really just want to be away from the people. That's all. White people are evil. Why do I have to live amongst them like this? And so, like, they be doing that shit to themselves. That's why they can do. That's why, because the bullies get bullied first. So they do this shit to themselves. Like, I have white clients that be telling me some heinous shit that their parents or their family members or their community members have done to them. You think it's bad, the shit that they do to people of color? Girl, the shit that they do to their own people, when like that Paris Hilton documentary on YouTube and shit, and like how when white people are rich, how they like try to control their kids or punish their kids is they will send them to these discipline camps where the kids will, like, you paying $20,000 a month per kid, and the kids are getting like molested and abused and physically abused and come out crazy and shit like that. And like, no, they just send their kids away. Like, they just send their kids away. I was talking to my friend once. He's Mexican, and he had like fucked up parents and shit like that. And we were just talking about it. We were just like, aren't you glad like your parents were just too impoverished to send you away to some weird ass camp and shit? This is poverty. Poverty and not being white. Because even though, like, I don't think people of color will just send their kids off nowhere. I don't trust these people. No matter how abusive they are, they ain't gonna send their kids off. Just send their kids off to just be whatever. So yeah, like, this is a fucked up ass world and shit. And so you surrounding yourself by these people and you think that they're gonna just, that's your salvation. I mean, you keep thinking that, honey. You in a pit of snakes. Most likely you'll be the sacrifice one day. You're just gonna be at a house party with all your white friends, and they're gonna take you down into the basement and be like, the bigger party's down here, and you're gonna be like, oh, that's okay. And you're gonna go down to the basement and be looking around like, why are all these candles? Why are people dressed in cloaks? And then they're gonna grab you and tie you to the table and stab you in the chest. And be chanting like in Latin and shit, calling on the devil. No, but you, Sambo, these are your people. That's what you thought that as the closer you got to whiteness, you would be saved from the tragedies of being black and the things that white people do to. No, honey, you gotta love yourself. And see that just like she learned how to love herself and realize that black men are not all the same in the show. That was magic. I needed to see that. I'm glad they put that. I mean, he was just kind of thrown in there and stuff, but I liked that Frank was there. And I'm glad that she got to experience Frank and realize that not all black, some can be very gentle and kind, like her grandfather. I think that was my favorite character, is her grandfather. He was more, like, in the book, he's more quiet. But like in the show, like, he was just, that's the nigga from Fresh Prince of Bel-Air and shit. Nigga, like, I was like, look at Jeffrey. It's Jeffrey. And he was so cute. And he was just like loving on his, and he felt so bad. He did this monologue at the end where he was talking about how, like, when he saw, like, the sadness in his wife, and when he saw the sadness in his daughter because she was being beat by that nigga, and he just felt helpless, like he couldn't do anything, and that was just the worst time of his life. And then he saw the sadness in Queenie and stuff like that, and he just felt like he couldn't do anything to help, like he couldn't do, and it's like, you was helping, honey, just by being an example of a decent black man. Just be that example so she can come back to it and realize that everybody ain't Roy, and every black man isn't gonna do you like Roy. Roy was crazy. Sitting them down like that for hours in a row, talking shit, telling them they ugly and they ain't shit and they stupid and all this other shit. The fuck is wrong with this nigga? And so, like, this was a good ass show. I liked it. I liked the book. I felt like it just represented what a black woman's mess looks like. Why our lives can become so messy, especially the loud ones of us, the ones that get called ghetto and all this other stuff, or the ones that are made to feel like their expression of emotion is too much and shit like that. Like, yeah, it is, because you pop eventually. You can't hold it in forever, being grazed and touched and bothered and looked at like a fucking animal and treated treated like an animal and, tossed to the side. And she even had this thing in the book where she was talking about, like, when I go out with my friends, like, men will come up to them and, like, ask them out on dates or be nice to them and stuff. When they come up to me, they're just like, oh, you're sexy. And then they try to grab my ass. It's like, ugh, it's just horrible. Like, I just don't even. A part of that is confidence, but another part of it is that's how black women are seen. Because when she says friends, I think she's including Chess K too in that. But Chess K has confidence in herself. She'll cuss your ass out. Like, Chess K came through though. Like, this was in the book and in the show. So in the book, she doesn't leave her job. She stays at, and that's more realistic. Like, when you recently, freshly started on your healing journey, like, it takes a lot of ovaries to get up there and quit your job like that. So she stays at her job, but Ted keeps fucking. But in the show, like, she quit her job and shit. But Ted keeps fucking bothering her and shit, right? Like, he's just like, I just want you so bad and I'm so sorry and please don't tell my wife. And he writes a letter to her talking about all this shit, right? And so, like, but before he writes this letter, he, like, confronts her after work, and she was supposed to meet Chess K because they was going to look at, like, apartments and shit together. And so he confronts her after work and it's just like, let me talk to you, and grabs her fucking arm, bitch. And then she's like, let me go. Of course, nobody comes and helps her when she screams, let me go. Because she's just some animal that he picked up off the ground. And then he's like, but, I just feel. And she's like, you always feel. It's all about how you feel. You don't give a shit about how I feel. And of course, he continues on with how he feels. And he just, wants to kill himself and da-da-da. And she's like, that ain't got shit to do with me, honey. Leave me the fuck alone. And here comes Chess K, like the superhero bitch that she is. She's amazing. And she comes with her purse and start hitting this nigga, like, let her fucking go. And then some white man in the book, some white man comes up and is like, what, do you need help, man? And Chet is listening to him like, you seen this nigga grab her and you just stood there and didn't do nothing when he grabbed her, but you gonna stand here and ask him if he's okay now because he's getting his ass beat like he deserves? Bitch, walk. And this nigga walked on like he was supposed to, because right, exactly, and beat his fucking ass. And so the next day, this nigga got the audacity, because they don't see us as people, so they don't feel like there'll be consequences if they do stuff to us. So he writes a letter to her, this is in the book, and is all like, I just want to tell you that I really, like, care about you, and I wanted to apologize, and don't tell my wife. And your friend has one hell of a left hook. Like, I was just like, so you didn't even take that shit seriously. She takes that letter and puts it on the desk of her boss, and then he's fired the next day. As he should be. Right. In the show, like, she just fires him off top, as she should have in the beginning, when like in the beginning, like, shouldn't even blamed Queenie. She shouldn't even blame Queenie. She should have just asked Queenie what her side of the story was. But no, she believed that white nigga off top and suspended Queenie and shit like that. But, like, in the show, like, they had to look at the CCTV and see them going into the bathroom together and fucking and shit for her to be like, oh yeah, like, I'm sorry, you can have your job back. And she takes it back in the book. In the book, she takes it back. Like, that's why I'm saying, like, I feel like the part with Cassandra, because Cassandra comes back too. Cassandra comes back because this nigga done cheated on her a bunch of times. And in the show, she basically just tells Cassandra, no, you need to stay away from me, bitch. Like, this doesn't mean we're okay. And then in the book, like, she lets Cassandra sit at the table, because Cassandra comes to the celebration dinner, and she lets Cassandra sit at the table with her family and eat, even though she's still side-eyeing Cassandra. And I'm just like, whatever, girl. Like, we ain't all got the ovaries to be sitting up here, like, kicking people out of our lives off top when we're just starting to heal. It is what it is. And I feel like that's more realistic. I feel like the ending in the show with the job cutting off the job and quitting and cutting Cassandra off. I feel like that's where she got to. The author eventually got to that place where she could do that. And you look back and you realize, I wish I had done that from jump. And then when they make a movie out your shit, you be like, this is how I actually want it to be. And so I didn't dislike those endings. That's how it should have been. But I do dislike making these white people look softer than they are. Like, no, Ted was stalking her, basically, emailing her, all this, flirting with her, all this shit. That Tom's uncle said nigger in her face. Like, why are we trying to make these white people look softer than they really are? Like, so yeah, I just feel like it was a good timeline illustration of a black woman cracking. This should be Diary of a Mad Black Woman. This should be what, because it is. That's how we go crazy. This Tyler Perry got it wrong. Like he does with everything. Like he got us suffering and suffering and suffering and not coming to any real realization of the beauty that is us. When in reality, we do suffer and suffer and suffer. And some of us actually do come to the realization of the beauty that is us. And this is what it looks like. Even though our family is telling us not to go to therapy and shit like that, even they figured it out in the end. Like she was the first to graduate from university. She was the first to go to therapy. She even made up with her mom. I like the makeup with her mom in the show more than I do in the book. In the book, like, she off top sees her mom as a person and understands what she went through. She's this little delicate woman and shit. In the show, though, it was a little more realistic. Like, no, you should be angry at your mom. She left you in an apartment by herself. Just because she's delicate emotionally, she had a child to take care of. You taking care of yourself. So you could be out here just doing reckless shit by yourself because you ain't got no responsibility but yourself. And you can take as long as you want to figure that shit out. No, she had a child to take care of. She allowed that man to let you stay in some apartment by yourself. Low key, that man might have been touching on her and shit like that based off the symptomology that she was showing. And no, like she was allowed to be angry. Like even when in the show when her mom was telling the story about how she named her, she let her mom tell the story in the book. And she felt bad for her mom and was like, I don't know why I don't see her as a person and shit. Like, I need to love my mom based off of the story of why she named her. But in the show, she was just like, every time she comes, she just be taking up space and making shit about her and her sadness. And this is supposed to be my day and da da da. And like she told her mom off, like, no, you need to apologize for leaving me alone in an apartment by myself, not just give me money and shit. Like, you need to own up to the fact that you did some fuck shit. And her mom was able to do that, and she was able to just take her time and figure out and navigate how she wanted her relationship with her mom to be. And then eventually they was able to make up. And that's more realistic. That's more realistic. The show was more realistic around the mom situation because no, she had a right to be upset. She had a right to be mad. Like, don't take her righteous anger away from her. She had a right to feel the way she felt. And she felt the way she felt. And eventually she was able to come to the conclusion that she would like to have her mom in her life. Sometimes we don't come to that conclusion. Sometimes I'll be telling my clients this too. Like, sometimes people that have harmed us, we can develop a phobia against them. So no matter if they've gotten help, no matter if they worked on themselves, our nervous system is still going to have an intense reaction to them. And some of us can heal from that and work through it and be fine. And some of us, it's going to be there forever and we can't be around the motherfuckers. I don't care if you worked. So like the hallmark of a healed abuser or a healed person that hurt us is that they understand that concept and they are willing to leave us the fuck alone if we want to. Her mom would not leave her alone. She kept trying to come and talk to her and give her space. Why are you showing up at church? Why are you showing up in the house, sitting on the bed, trying to give her space? She needs to think about things and she'll talk to you when she's ready. Like grandma kept inviting her to things. And you can't force people to be around people when they're not ready. Like that's not, So I felt that it was a more realistic view of what it looks like when you're working through the trauma that someone else has put you through. I need to tiptoe this. I need to take my baby steps into this situation and see if I'll be okay with this. And if I am okay with this, that's great. But if I'm not, like, that's not it. Like, that's not it. Like, if I want to cut her off for good, like, y'all need to accept that shit. Like, whatever. Or just have very structured, strict boundaries around how I interact with her. Y'all need to be okay. Like, I felt like that was realistic. So, you know, did I forget anything? This is 8 episodes. I suggest, like, especially black women, watch this, and don't watch this surface level, like, oh, she's a mess, she keeps making these stupid. No, watch this from the point of view of somebody that is claustrophobic and can't breathe, and the world is crushing down on them, and then they just explode because she's a human and you're a human too. And it's funny because I think a lot of the comments about this movie and the book saying that she's annoying and all this other stuff come from black women, because I think, like, when we have to sit down and realize and recognize when we're just looking at ourselves and we don't like it. You don't like looking at how you used to be or how you are right now, but it's good to look at ourselves and analyze ourselves and work through it. And sometimes cinema can make us do that. Sometimes books, media, cinema, whatever can make us do that. And so this reminded me of my 20s, going from like, I don't think I was that promiscuous. I wanted to be in a relationship, and going from dude to dude trying to make them be in a relationship with me, even though they were toxic and they were hurtful and they were harmful to who I was as a human being, and still thinking that I could make them be or mold them into what I actually wanted, not recognizing that I needed to be that for myself. And so now that I am that for myself, I don't have to get the outward validation. Like, she was using her friends to validate things. She was using niggas to validate things, but she couldn't do that herself. And now she's learning how to do that herself. And I had to learn how to do that myself. And then once I got a good foundation of self-love, I loved at the end of the show, she was like, I love you, Mom. And then she looks at the camera and she goes, and I love myself. And I'm like, that's so, yes. Because once you're able to do that, then you don't put up with shit no more. Like, I refuse to have a gynecologist that's going to stab me in the pussy. Like, we're not doing that. I'll cuss you the fuck out. You feel motivated to set boundaries and cuss motherfuckers out when they think they can treat you like anything. Like, we don't surround ourselves with friends that make you feel uncomfortable or trigger your traumas or make you feel a type of way that to the point where you want to fight them and shit. We don't do that. No, nigga. Like, we don't allow men or other people that, you know, that you're interested in, like, it ain't gotta be men, but like any person that we consider as a partner, a potential partner into our lives that make us feel like shit. Because I don't make myself feel like shit. Like, and even if I do make myself feel like shit, I comfort myself and through it, so that I'm not just wallowing in it. You know, because sometimes, sometimes you just feel sad and shit, and you just be thinking negative thoughts, and you just got to work your way through it. You know, we don't allow certain people and situations that we used to allow into our lives. So those people and situations are still out there. They're still out there trying to be manipulative and fucked up. You don't see that. And you don't allow them to try to make you see it. I don't need that. And so that's what it is. I liked it. I hope you liked it. And I hope that it helps, like this video and the show. I hope it helps people, especially black women, to start loving on ourselves more. That's all that shit is about. Just love on yourself. Just love on yourself. Recognize the people in your life that are already showing up for you. And then be open to inviting more people in that will show up for you based off of the patterns of behaviors that they are showing you. They're showing you patterns of behaviors and words that go together. Words and behaviors go together. A consistent positivity. And it's over a good, decent period of time. Allow that shit in. Like, don't close yourself off to the possibility of goodness. Because Queenie didn't know what goodness looked like. She didn't know what goodness looked like. And then when she experienced it, she thought she didn't deserve it. And then that's how she had some nigga tearing her pussy in half. And I'm still on the fence. Was it sexual assault or just physical abuse? No, because the shit he did to her, like BDSM without safe words and consent is like sexual assault and abuse, physical abuse. So, mm, mm. I'm on the fence because she kept calling that nigga to come over and shit. Like, she was just punishing herself with these men and their penises. That's how I feel. That's where I'm landing. That's where I keep landing. Like she kept punishing herself with those men and their penises. Yep. That's where I've landed. Cause like when she said stop, yeah, they like tried to coerce her, but no, she put her foot down and they stopped. So, you know. But she did say, like, do I really want this? Da 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 da. She did question her. It's a gray area. But anyway, love yourself. And I hope you enjoyed this review. Let me know what you think in the comments. And later days.